Thank you, Margaret. Hello, everyone. Good evening and welcome. Noswaith. So I thought we'd start with a little bit of history, which I suppose for those of you who live here might not be necessary, but I found it quite interesting. I've got this off Wikipedia, so we know it's true. Merthyr Tydfil was a parliamentary constituency centred on the town of Merthyr Tydfil in what was then called Glamorgan. From 1832 to 68, it returned one member of Parliament to the House of Commons of the Parliament of the United Kingdom, and in 1868 this was increased to 2 members, and the 2-member constituency was abolished for the 1918 general election. A single-member constituency known as Merthyr existed from 1918 until 1945, and by the 1950 general election had been renamed Merthyr Tydfil. The constituency was abolished for the 83 general election, when it was largely replaced by the new Merthyr Tydfil and Romney constituency. Historically, it was a Liberal seat throughout the 19th century, and particularly after the landmark election of 1868. There were tensions within the constituency, however, and these were manifested by the rivalry between Merthyr and Aberdare. And now that those two places have merged, I assume it's only going to get worse. Or it might get better. Increasingly, the constituency was affected by the debate about working class representation. Thomas Halliday contested Merthyr as a Labour candidate, that's Labour in inverted commas because the Labour Party didn't exist then, as early as 1874, and the return of Keir Hardie in 1900 was a notable landmark in the growth of the Labour Party. From 1922 onwards, Merthyr was a safe Labour seat. Now, we come to today, and I thought you might like a little background. There's an opinion poll published by Survation on the 15th of June. And what I thought I would do is share with you what the voting intention was from that poll. But then at the end of the evening, we can do another snapshot poll and see how that's maybe shifted. So they're saying, and this is on the basis of, I can't see how many they polled, but the Conservatives were, this is for this constituency, the Conservatives were on 8%, Labour on 43%, Lib Dems on 3%, Reform on 21%, Greens on 9%, Plaid on 14%, and others on 1%. So remember those numbers and we'll come back to it at the end. So, without further ado now, we'll go over to the questions. I'm going to pick them out at random. If we've got questions that are duplicate or very similar to each other, I will just put one to one side, and if we've got time, we'll come back to it later. Okay, so the first question now. That's absolutely right. We're going to do introductions first. Sorry, so each candidate can have 1 minute to introduce themselves. Okay, I've got a stopwatch and I've got a bell. So when I ring the bell, you stop talking. Okay? Which way was number 1? Was that number 1 or are you number 1?
I think I'm 7.
7. Well, we'll start with number 1. This is in no particular order. Nothing to do with me. Are you number 1? On the Margaret, yeah? Okay, we'll start on this side of the room then. Over to you.
Okay. Thanks very much. Pleasure to be here this evening at Hustings. I think this is an important part of our democratic process, particularly here in the new constituency of Merthyr Tydfil and Aberdare, which has so much in the history of certainly the Labour Party. Just introducing myself, Gerald Jones. I've been the Labour Member of Parliament for the former constituency of Merthyr Tydfil and Romney since 2015. Part of that role, I prided myself in being as accessible and as visible as possible in the constituency, holding regular surgeries and street surgeries, coffee mornings, pint with your MP, lots of examples of where we've engaged with community members. Surgeries, those things are still important, but not as important as they were. But in street surgeries, going out and talking to residents on a regular basis, picking a couple of hundred streets, talking to Dunbowden, RMS, local councillors, and really engaging with people. And if I am re-elected, that's what I would continue across the whole constituency with Tydfil and Aberdare. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. Let me just start by introducing myself and give you some background on information on who I am. My name is Bob Davenport, and I'm honoured to be standing here as a parliamentary candidate for the Merthyr Tydfil and Aberdare constituency. 6 years old, have a wife and 2 grown-up children, and been a trade union activist all my working life. Also, a long-standing member of the Communist Party. I was born in Merthyr and lived in Douglas for 58 years, and since moving to Kevin 2 years ago. I worked in local government in Merthyr Valley Zones for over 37 years, and most of the time that I was an officer working on every housing estate in the borough, where I witnessed the cuts at first hand. Currently the Secretary of Merthyr Tydfil County Borough, Secretary of the Merthyr Tydfil Trades Council, and I think I just put together 3 sort of principal issues I want to raise.
Time.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry to be brutal, but we've got a lot of candidates here.
Not like that, pal. My name's Francis Whitefoot from Chiaris. My career path has covered everything from forklift driver to Welsh Guard to electoral campaign manager for Neath constituency for Plaid Cymru, and I'm currently now a secondary school teacher in Tredegar, and it's just a case of the main reason I'm running is because I want to give back to my community. I've worked hard to get, and everything I do, looking forward to building on what we can do and making my life better for me and my children and the rest of us, to make sure Merthyr is a place where you're proud to come from again. That's it, that's all me. Thank you.
Noswaith Croeso, good evening and welcome. I'm Anthony Cole from the Workers' Party. I've been a builder for 35 years now. I've always been a Labour voter, but I've been very disillusioned lately of the way that they've gone too far to the right for me. So I'm going to be standing for the left-leaning people of this town, and I'm going to be standing for what's right on issues of all sorts of things. Specifically where the Labour Party has led everybody down on the issue of Palestine, basically that's my aim. I will be around, I will be very vocal in the town, and I will fight for every single person. Thank you.
I won't stand up. So I'm Gareth Thomas, and I'm standing for the Reform Party, but I have my own ideology. I am more to the central left, I guess, or central right, I should say. I'm not what most people would think of reform. I have been a business owner. I've been in the military. I have my own non-profits, and I'm also a director of a charity. So I go above and beyond. My specialist is mental health, and I literally will fight tooth and nail for anybody, for anything. So that's where I stand, and that's it for me. Less than a minute.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. 52 seconds. Thanks for everyone. No emergency fire drills are planned for this evening, so if the alarm does go off, that's the way out, and that's the way out, okay? If you're in a wheelchair, it's that way. If you need a toilet, it's over there. If you need a drink, it's over there. If you don't need anything else, it's here. Okay, without further ado then, let's go to the first question. These are all pulled out at random. It's from Draper, who asks, we've seen NATO alliance do nothing but support war and turn a blind eye to genocide in Gaza. What do you propose to do to restore peace? And this goes to the speaker number 1 first. And then every candidate will give an answer to that question.
I think that the first thing I would say is that I don't think there's anybody in this room, many people in the country that doesn't want an end to what we're seeing on our television screens in Gaza over the last couple of months. I don't accept the point that NATO have turned a blind eye. I think there has been a lot of work going on, a lot of international pressure building. We've seen, obviously, just in the last week or so, the UN Security Council and their resolution, which I hope, and I know we all hope, will bring an end to the violence and bring a ceasefire about straight away. I think we need that. We need the hostages freed. We need the aid into Gaza, and then we need the long-term solution in terms of building that two-state solution. And I think we, as the Labour Party, and certainly the UK, as part of the international community, we all have a part to play in that to make sure that this ends as swiftly as possible.
Yeah, thanks. I think, like, to me, I guess it was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. We must end the genocide and the starvation in Gaza now, you know, and for people of particular friends, it's completely atrocious. And on top of that, we need to sort of go out and take positive action and actually, like, prosecute and arrest the Israeli government. Like Benjamin Netanyahu get away with this. You've got Julian Assange, who's facing jail in life for reporting on war crimes. Yet NATO, Britain, America, Europe are actually, like, defending the war crimes. So, like, these criminals need to be put in jail, and we've got to sort of, like, save the poor people of Gaza now.
Well, the Israel-Gaza question, probably the only way we would really solve this is go back in time and stop Lord Balfour sending his telegram. But unfortunately, we can't do that. Right? And it's a case of, well, both sides have been fighting each other, and there are people who enable both those sides, yeah? And it's a case of, we need to work together with the people who are trying to work across these communities to bring peace, because at the end of the day, the two-state solution probably could have worked in the late 90s at Oslo, but there's been so much illegal settlement, there's been so much movement of people into those areas, it's not fit for purpose at this time. And this is what the people in Palestine and Israel are saying. That two-state solution is not fit for purpose. There needs to be more enabling of the peacemakers in those areas rather than the people who just want to fight. Because the only way that conflict is going to end for the vast majority of people involved in it is the complete annihilation of one side or the other. And we need to make sure we boost those peacemakers who work across those communities, whether it's Jewish, Arab, Christian, Jews. There's a hotbed of so many religions, of so many peoples there. They need a solution that works for everybody, right? And we can only do that by sitting around the table. We need to make sure people are talking and not fighting, because an eye for an eye makes everyone blind. And so it's a case of, we need to stop weapons to both sides. We need to stop people enabling those who want to kill, and we need to boost those who want to find a way in which they can live in peace in what is a beautiful part of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so some people might know the Workers' Party stance on this, and our stance is to completely pull out NATO altogether. And I'll tell you why. Is because since the Second World War, NATO has done nothing but encroach on other countries. It's done nothing but cause many, many wars around the world, and it's done nothing but genocide and pain and suffering. And it's all to keep up the industrial military complex that's happening in America at the moment, and to keep the arms trades going, and to keep people in power, the greedy, the billionaires, and everyone else. So what's happening in Palestine is no different to what NATO have done all over the world. They've just, it's a shock and awe tactic for more money and oil. And I'm just fed up of it. So pulling out of NATO would be the best thing for this country. I think we put something like $6 billion into NATO every year, which I think would be better in the NHS. And following America into these wars, Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, into all these countries was a huge mistake on our part. And now we are backing the Israelis on the biggest genocide that's happened in the world for the last at least 30 years, and I just don't want to be part of that anymore as a country, and that's just the way I feel about it, and this is why I'm running. The Conservatives have backed Israel without any recompense, they just supply arms, and Labour have backed them to the hilt as well, and it's all to do with money, backhanders, and it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough as a country. So,
I agree with some of what you said, by the way. I agree with what everybody said.
A bit closer.
Yeah. It was the same, I think. Anyway, my stance on this is obviously being ex-military and a veteran, soldiering, and so my view is that Hamas obviously need to back out. I'm against genocide. I think the Israelis should have a ceasefire. I think there should be talks on both sides. And as for NATO, I'm not against NATO because I think our closest ally is the US, and we kind of we have followed them into wars, and I don't agree with that, and I certainly don't agree with the two Bushes actually. But there's always a way of ending things. But as you said, arms dealers and so on, and how they just make money. It is a money-making machine. But Gaza itself, I think, should be a present ceasefire. I think they should clear Gaza area, make it a no-go zone, no fighting zone, I guess. Perhaps the UN should be brought in. I've been under the UN, and there should be peacekeeping forces there to keep separation. But on the political view of things, I don't. It's not. I don't. Like I said, I don't believe in genocide, but I also believe that Hamas are as much to blame as the Israelis, and I guess they're protecting, just like we would, if we were attacked by other parties. I'm not going to talk about the IRA, but we've had our own issues in the past. But anyway, I do believe in peace. I think there should be peace on both sides, and bring an end to genocide. But that's it.
Thank you. And I'm thanking the candidates for being brief, because if each candidate takes 1 minute, it takes 5 minutes to answer every question. So if we can try and keep to 1 minute, that's good. It's really keeping it tight and concise then. So the next question, picked out at random, and we'll start with candidate number 2 this time. Where do the candidates stand on leaving the ECHR, the European Court of Human Rights? And this is from Andrew Williams.
Okay, thanks. Obviously, human rights, should be part of our sort of statute in Britain. The Communist Party is opposed to the European Union, which undermines workers' rights in the long term. But with the Tory government as they are now, we got a bit of a half-house sort of situation where half the Tories and half the Labour Party still want to be in Europe, but essentially, yes, we want we will fight for and campaign for some statutory rights for human rights and extend it into workers' rights and so on. But we need to be out of Europe and stay out of Europe.
I don't think you really answered the question. Should Britain leave the ECHR? That's nothing to do with the European Union.
Is it the European Human Rights?
The European Court of Human Rights, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. Yeah, okay, I think that it's got strong links to the European Union, if that makes sense. That the principle of human rights is what we all agree with, but you need human rights statutory rights in Britain, and that extends, beyond, the ECHR. We need to rebuild all the rights we had before the European Union, and this ECHR was created after the European Union was formed, or a common market anyway.
After the Second World War.
Yes, thank you. It did actually come first. Okay, candidate number 3.
Well, the European Court of Human Rights, the United Kingdom was proud to help form that. You know what I mean? They did, the basis of those human rights are what we set in stone across this country. So it's a case of us pulling out of the rules we made. Yeah, where's the sense in that? Yeah, it's a case of these are the foundation on which all rights are built. Yeah, and as a school teacher, now we are working with the UN and the UN to allow children to know their rights, so they know that they are protected, and that is what laws are all built upon, these statutory rights. So pulling out of them, it just makes no sense at all. So I would not allow us to do that, because we always need that stick to measure ourselves against, and that is the baseline on which we start with. If we pull away that baseline, it's just a race to the bottom, and the only people who are going to lose are us, because those who have the money can get their way out of it.
No, we shouldn't pull out the Human Rights Act, because without human rights, there's nothing left. There's nothing left in this country without human rights. You see the erosion of society already happening in this country with the rise of the right and the far right. And without human rights, that is the end of this country, I can assure you. So, no.
Well, this might shock you, but actually I'm with you. But my wife, who's at the back, is American. Actually, it was they were going to throw her out of the country, and it was the European Courts of Human Rights that actually allowed her to stay with an immigration solicitor. So I'm all for the Courts of Human Rights. So yeah, that might be surprising coming from somebody who's standing for reform, but I am. That's my stance. Well, she wouldn't be here with me otherwise. So I'm all for that. That's the end of it.
So reform is maybe a broader church than most of us maybe imagined.
There you go. We can shock you still.
Yeah, thanks very much. Absolutely not. I think, as has been said, the UK played a leading role in setting up the European Court of Human Rights after the Second World War. It's a safeguard. I think there are elements in the Tory party that want to see us pull out of that, because it would allow them to take their agenda forward, and we need to stay in to make sure that continues to be a safeguard. So I would absolutely support remaining part of the UCR.
Thank you very much, everybody. Now, the next question is an anonymous question, and it is, would you support an end to arms sales from Britain to Israel? And we'll start with candidate number 3 this time.
Yes, I would. It's a case of if you were making something for somebody and they are using it in a way you were not happy with, it's your moral courage to stand up and say, well, you're not having any more of that. Yeah? And a case of, yes, we have a large weapons industry in the UK, right? And it employs a lot of people in this constituency down in Tydfil, right? And been blown up in the products they were making down there. But again, it's a case of, you need to have that moral courage to stand up for what is right. And if someone is using something you were providing them in a way you were not happy with, you say no more. And that's it. That's all I got on that, I'm afraid.
Okay, so the Ukraine, without British weapons, the war in the Ukraine...
Israel, not Ukraine.
Was the question about Israel, or...?
Would you support an end to arms sales from Britain to Israel?
Well, it's the same thing, So Ukraine, the war wouldn't be going on. They wouldn't have gone on this long if we hadn't supplied them with weapons from the very start. Israel, for me, are just a despot nation, and we shouldn't supply them with one bullet to take the life of any child or woman on the Gaza Strip. So that's my view. Thank you.
I should join your party. I agree that we should stop arms sales, because countries are making, especially UK makes a lot of money from selling arms to other countries, and along with America. So, probably the Conservative government would be like, yeah, we're not going to make a lot of money. And Labour, they're not going to be much better, to be honest with you. So the answer to that is no, we shouldn't. But a vote for Labour is yes, we should. So there you go.
Thank you.
I think the important thing is that international law has to be upheld. There are allegations that international law has been broken. I don't think, with due respect, it's for politicians to decide whether a law has been broken. But if there is evidence to suggest that international law has been broken, then yes, arms should be suspended.
The International Court of Justice has ruled that genocide is plausibly taking place, so the evidence is there.
Yeah, absolutely. End all arms sales to Israel and to Ukraine as well, for that matter. But the fact that we are allowing arms to go to Israel via Cyprus, through Akrotiri, through the RAF. The RAF has run at least 200 reconnaissance missions across Gaza. We are helping in the genocide. This government and the Labour Party, unfortunately, are going along with it. We are party to this genocide, and it must stop. And obviously, stopping the arms is just the first step. But we are not just supplying arms. We are actually, the RAF is helping the Israelis to carry out the genocide.
Yeah, I started that one.
Right, the next question, also an anonymous one, that's okay. It is, do you have any green ideas? I think it says ideas, or maybe ideals. Any green ideas? And I suppose if so, what?
That's me, yeah,
you
you
start.
Right, okay. Yeah, we're putting a lot of money into the green deal at the moment. A hell of a lot of money, actually, in billions and billions. Some of the science on that is way out of date. So I think it would be good to have a review on the science of it before we put a hell of a lot more money into it. So I mean, that's my view. I think this, catching up on the science and being absolutely sure about what we're doing. There's a lot of hearsay. There's a lot of people coming out there who have got financial gain by doing what they're doing, and there's a lot of financial companies and businesses running on the back of the Green Deal, which is fine if it's all square, but some of the science is definitely out of date.
I'm all for science, but my idea. So I guess we're talking about going green, yeah. So I think
Could be.
yeah. My stance on that, and it's my own idea. It's nothing to do with the reform part. Is wind farms cost an absolute fortune, and they don't generate enough power. So I agree with going nuclear. I know that sounds really bad, but I mean, it's safe these days, and there are ways of doing it. And it's going to be cheaper in the long run for everybody. It's going to bring down your bills. So for going green, I'm all for going green on a lot of things, but power and energy, that's just one thing that is difficult. And if you want to pay more bills, then that's fine. You know, put more turbines up across the lovely landscape that Wales has, or we'll stick with nuclear. So that's my stance on power. But I'm all for green, honestly.
you. I think the climate crisis is one of the biggest challenges that we've got as a society and as a world. When I go into primary schools, actually, on a regular basis, the young people get it. They absolutely get it, and I think we can learn a lot from them. I remember, many years ago, actually, the 1992 Rio Summit on the environment, and the strapline of that summit was think global, act local, and it's absolutely correct, because we can all do a little bit, and if we all do a little bit, it will make a big difference across the world. In terms of the Labour Party, we will be setting up Great British Energy, which will be a publicly owned energy company, using green energy, creating thousands of jobs. But we're also talking and pledging in the manifesto in terms of doubling onshore wind, trebling solar power, and quadrupling offshore wind, because those green energies are the energies of the future. They will create jobs, and they will bring down bills for families in this constituency and right across the UK.
Yes, well, the Communist Party is fully behind the green agenda, like wind farms, solar farms, all of that. But I think the key to it would be to increase public ownership of services. Look at the water industries. They privatised, and then all that sort of like a shite on my language, but all that sort of like money going back into the rivers, and where if those profits were like invested back into Welsh Water and other water companies, that would be like one major idea to help with the green agenda. But yes, fully behind the green agenda and all the current activities taking place.
Well, with Wales, we're blessed with a landscape that's ready for it. You know what I mean? We've already got the running water, we've got the wind, the tidal, we've got everything. And Plaid have been saying since 2021 about having a national power producing company owned by the government, directed by the government, that makes us have green, cheap energy that we can have for ourselves. We've already got the reservoirs with the water. All we need is to put a turbine in the overshoot. Yeah? The problem we've got is the infrastructure of the national grid is the problem. You can set them up quite quickly, but it'll take 10 to 15 years to get them linked to the grid. And that's the biggest problem with green at the moment. There's no infrastructure investment. So all these, like the one over in Tydfil, they've got that power, the hydropower there generates electricity for the entire community. But they can only do it for the community because they can't link it up to the national grid. So it's all about the investment we need. But yeah, we are all for making us the greenest power producing nation in the world, so we can take these jobs and these technology patents and make money for us as well.
I do love it when candidates come in right on 1 minute. It's absolutely brilliant, so thank you. And you're not the only one who's done it tonight.
That's the last one.
Yeah, right, okay. It is quite confusing when you're starting with a different person each time, but anyway, here we are. I would just like to give a plug to my magazine, because I'm editor of a magazine called Batteries and Energy Storage Technology. It's a technical magazine, but we run a series of articles called Batteries Will Save the World, and I'd recommend you read it. Look it up on the internet. It's called bestmag.co.uk, and you will see that batteries are very important in this green agenda. And if you haven't thought about it, now is the time. Right, moving on, there's another question on Palestine from Gareth Mochen. It's coming out at random. It's a different question. Given that the ICC, the UN, UNICEF and others have condemned Israel's actions and the ongoing genocide, what is your solution for a long-standing peace?
Hamas put their arms down and not fight and not, take refuge. The fact is that it is the same question as the last one, more or less. And we have to, and we've agreed that there should be peace and an end to genocide. So that's all I'm going to say on that, because it is the same question, more or less.
Okay. Any brief additions?
Well, I think it's just repeating what I said earlier. I mean, I think we need that immediate ceasefire, we need the release of the hostages, we need the aid into Gaza as quickly as possible, and then we need that two-state solution negotiated with all parties, and all parties around the table with the support of the international community and with the UN and other agencies as well, to bring an end to it as quickly and
just to say that this government, America and the European Union should stop covering for the genocide. It's got to stop.
And again, we just need to stop the enablers. You know what I mean? The people who are, encouraging both sides. We need to support those people in the middle who are trying to work for peace across all the communities.
I think the solution is a complete ceasefire and going back to the 1967 borders as they were originally. We need to make sure that all the land that's been stolen by Israel from the Palestinian people, from their homes, their farms, their olive trees, everything that they've stolen since 1967 needs to be returned to the Palestinian people, and that's a fact. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. So the next question now is on a very different topic. It's from Dawn Bowden. How do we tackle the harmful effects of gambling? Back to number one.
I think the Tory party could tell us a few things about that at the moment. But, I think we are seeing real harm. I've for the last couple of years sat on an all-party group on gambling-related harm, and have taken, as part of the group, taken evidence from people who are affected and people who have lost their livelihoods, lost their loved ones, and or ended up in a huge amount of debt from gambling. We desperately need reform. We've had so many opportunities over the last couple of years that have been lost because the government have bottled it at the last minute in bringing forward regulation. But we need regulation. We also need regulation for online gambling as well, because that's as harmful as sort of gambling in casinos, etc. It's not anti-gambling, it's making gambling safe for people, and because there are people who get hooked up and lose, well, as I said, lose livelihoods. So we need that regulation, and the Labour government is committed to doing that where the Tories have let it down.
I think gambling, or addiction to gambling, goes hand in hand with poverty and unemployment, and where people look for escapism, where they just wish that winning horse to come in, the lottery ticket. We've created a country living on hope rather than actually supplying good living standards, jobs, housing. So I think gambling is a symptom of Margaret Thatcher, basically. If gambling addiction has risen, I bet it's risen since about 1979. So yes, I noticed that I think with the Welsh government, since 2021, there's a socio-economic duty on the Senedd to improve decision making on socially, economically disadvantaged. So at least within the Welsh Senedd, there is a strategy of a kind to combat poverty. So they are moving in the right direction, and I'm fair play to the Senedd.
Well, this hits quite hard because this was one of the many issues I had when I came out of the army, when I had my medical discharge. And the problem we've got with gambling is we allow the gambling companies to mark their own homework, and they get involved with it all. They say, oh, we're doing our best, we've got that stop when the fun stops campaign, it's all going well, just let us regulate it, we'll be fine. Oh, we made vast profits again this year. Well, that's got nothing to do with the gambling problem on us. We're working really hard to solve it. Yes, we need to take them off there, and we need to regulate it away from them, and we need to enforce rules for them, because people, they are killing people. Yeah, people are dying because of what they do, and all we do is go, oh, yeah, we'll try harder next time, thanks very much, right? And if we don't do it, we're just going to lose more lives every day to this. Well, it is a disease, it is an addiction. It's like heroin. That buzz when those 7 bells land in your pocket is fantastic, right? But again, once you chase that buzz, you never find it, and it will kill you. And that's why we need to remove them from the system of regulation for it.
I may not be qualified to answer this. I'm not a gambler at all. I don't gamble at all, and never have. I think it was Tony Blair that wanted super casinos, wasn't it, in this country? Yeah. Again, I do recognise it though as being a a very bad illness that wrecks people's homes and wrecks their lives. I would definitely look at the online gambling system, and I think that is the biggest breaker of homes now in our country today. I think I'd look towards banning that actually as an option, and I think that would work a great deal to stopping people's habits. It's too easy to get to. It's too available on the. You pick up your phone and you're into the gambling already, and that for me doesn't sit well. Gambling is thousands and thousands of years old. Nobody ever does well. Nobody ever tells you how much they lose. They only tell you how much they ever win. So it's just one of them things. I'd look at banning that. Yeah. Thank you.
We're going to become friends after this. So I'm when I left the army, and I was medically discharged as well. I was a compulsive gambler. I can tell you that there are regulations online, that there are things like GamStop and all other things. So GamStop, if you sign up to it for 5 years, it'll stop all online gambling. You won't be able to touch anything. There are other things like GamStop that you sign up to, so you can't enter any casino in the UK. So there are regulations and things to stop, but it is up to the individual gambler whether they're willing to sign up to them. So on a government side of things, the Labour Party are going to do the same as the Conservatives. They're just going to open casinos up, leave casinos open, take the taxes off them, and away we go. But how much, as a mental health expert, and I deal with gamblers now, like myself, and so, yeah, you're right, take maybe a couple of seconds, but I get gamblers, and I put them back on the right line, but it's down to the individual, I think, and it'll take the government to stop it.
Thank you, everybody. So the next question is from Anna. What is your plan, or your party's plan, to tackle misogyny and violence against women and girls?
With the Communist Party, I guess it's very simple, give women full protection of the law against domestic violence and misogyny, extend that to pension justice for the WASPy women, the women that sort of lost out with the retirement age being increased for women. But basically, protect women's gender-based, sex-based rights, equal pay for every type of work, and then rights for childcare, to allow women who generally end up having to bring up the children and trying to mix that with working, but they give women full protection of law, especially against violence, domestic violence.
Unfortunately, this will take a massive shift in people's opinions first. It's accepted. It's especially in the South Wales Valleys communities. It is, even though we are a matriarchal society, because all our men used to die before 40 down the mines. It's still expected, and it's just educating youngsters about it's not the norm. It is not the norm. You are valued as a person, no matter what gender you are, no matter who you are. You bring something to society. Until people recognise that, and we look beyond, forgive the crudeness, but what people have in their underwear, and we can start seeing the people they are and who, what they can bring to the table. That's what we need. But again, it's just all about education. It's all about enforcement. It's all about believing women. When they say something is happening, I couldn't have been that bad, or it's, and we do it in schools where the boys bully girls and they go, it's because he fancies you and that. You know what I mean? It takes that mental shift for us all to make sure we treat everybody equal and stop it before it starts. My apologies, sorry.
I think the valleys there's no greater problem in the valleys than anywhere else. I think that women should be respected. I think the same as every man, woman, child, trans, LGBT community, and anyone who thinks they're a cat. I mean, everyone should be respected for what they believe and what they do. And women should be near enough very top of that list because they've had a pretty hard ride. It's I do think that I think the problem with the youngsters coming through is that I think porn is too readily accessible for these youngsters, and I think a lot of them think that that's what love is, or what sex is, what relationships are, and it doesn't really paint a perfect picture of the family life, if you like, and I think that's readily too accessible. I worked in Korea a couple of years ago, and porn is actually banned there. You can't get it on any of the internet sites at all. So friends were telling me. So it was, I think it was him. It was reform. But a different family society, different structure of the family there, and that's it. Thanks.
Question again.
What is your plan or your party's plan to tackle misogyny and violence against women and girls?
Well, having grown up with all women in my family, literally all women. In fact, now there's only like 3 males out of 40 women. So I'm all for equality, gender equality. I don't care whether you're gay, bi, trans, it doesn't matter. It's just equality. I believe women should, they make the best leaders actually. We should just make women leaders across the world. And then there'd be no fighting. There'd be like, the world would be perfect. So that I know, before me, again. But I'm all for equality.
I think this issue, I mean, obviously it's a really serious issue, and it's a serious issue in our communities, and it's an issue right across the country. And I think the key is tackling the culture. And I think the culture in organisations, the culture in society. And we have, let's make no bones about it, I think we have a really big job to do that. But I think we have to get to a position where, the things of the past and what some people call banter, those things are somewhat socially acceptable. That's wrong. It needs to be unacceptable, and that has to, it's as much starting from the community up as from government down. I think it has to be a two-way process, legislation obviously to support that. But I think it is about challenging the culture that has sort of existed and pervaded our society for far too long. It needs to be challenged and it needs to be rooted out.
Yeah, I think that's sort of, I think.
Right, the next question is on proportional representation. Do the candidates agree, this is from Julia Silesin, do the candidates agree that we urgently need to repair our democracy to ensure that all votes are equal and all voices are heard? And will they commit to campaigning for, voting for and supporting the much needed and long overdue change in our voting system to proportional representation?
Well, again, first part of the post isn't fit for service, is it? It's a case of we get, the vast majority of votes are not counted, and people are losing interest in democracy because of that. Yeah, why am I bothering voting? Party A, you're going to win it, so what's even the point of my voice being heard? And again, it's all about democracy should be representing the people. So it's the case, any system which increases that representation, it's a good thing, because everybody's voice needs to be heard, like the question says. Right? And so it's just a case of if we can, I prefer STV because then you also have that selection of which candidate in that party you prefer. It is a little bit complicated, yeah, and it's all, first past the post is simpler, but to get that truly representative government representing the people as a whole, proportional representation is the only way of achieving that successfully.
I completely agree. I think it's just the system we've got is so far out of date now. Everyone should be represented, and it's in our manifesto that it's one of our pledges. So yeah, completely agree with fellow to my left.
the same with reform actually. It's we don't really, or reform don't, but I also as a person, and I think it's more about, you know, the candidates as is about the party, and I believe first past the post shit is outdated. India, America, and Canada, I think, are the only other countries that use it. So I think we should change it, and you know, and do exactly what the others have said, and get rid of it. It's old, it's outdated, but we'll see, because you know the likes of Conservative and Labour would absolutely fall down and die if first past the post went, because that's how they win.
I'm afraid that I've never been a fan of proportional representation. I don't think it's... you know, somebody mentioned just now about making voting less complicated. And I think, you know, as far as the public is concerned, when we have elections, we have a clear winner, we have a clear accountability, we have a clear relationship between the constituency and their member, whether it's Parliament, Council, Senate, and that relationship matters. If you're not doing a good job, in 5 years' time or whenever the next election comes, on your bike. But there's clear accountability. I think as far as, you know, the voting system is concerned, even when you get down to you know, sort of coalitions and party deals and stuff behind closed doors, voters are frozen out of that part of the process. If people elect a representative, it's clear, there's a clear winner, you have a clear manifesto if you have a clear party elected, and as far as the public is concerned, I think that is certainly what people appreciate and understand, and so everyone knows fine. But I've never been in favour of PR, and I'm not going to start now. Thanks.
Yes, I'm all in favour of PR. I think it's the future, it's the only way of doing things. Tonight we've got like a massive turnout, which is really impressive, so thanks to you all. But I think somebody on the panel mentioned that every vote should count. There's nothing worse than sort of voting for a party knowing that will have no impact on the great scheme of things. So, so we definitely need to have PR, and for it to be introduced as soon as possible. I like a party like myself, the Communist Party, others. It gives everybody a chance to have a say in how this country's run.
Thank you. So the next question is another anonymous question. What LGBTQIA plus friendly policies do you intend to implement to make queer lives easier?
Oh, this will be easy for me. Our party's policy is to care for everyone in our charge, and it's to care for every man, woman, child, LGBT community, plus community, and everyone who needs caring. You know, the whole country are caught up on these gender politics at the moment, and it's a lot in the media, and really, it's really not a problem. It's really not a problem with anyone else. You don't have to worry about it. Go on about your lives, do whatever you need to do, and don't worry about what anyone else is doing, because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Gender politics are completely, you know, they're just silly. So I'm not getting involved in that, and I'm just, you know, everyone needs to care for everyone else, and that's our policy, and that's what we're going to stick to.
Again, I think I'm going to shock you, but I actually don't agree with reform on some of this. I think they believe in a two gender policy. There's lots of booze, whatever.
Reform, not at the back.
Yeah, I listen. I have a trans nephew. I have a gay nephew. I have bi. I mean, there's everything in my family, and it's fine. I use the disabled toilet, so I don't care whether it's male, female, toilets or whatever, you know. So I would just let people be. People do whatever they want. I mean, isn't that democracy? That we can each do what we want to do, say what we want to say, and be what we want to be. That's it.
What policies would you implement though?
Sorry?
The question was, what policies would you implement?
Well, I put a policy in place saying that exactly that. I just think that, you know, the whole toilet situation, people have been complaining about males and but look, my trans nephew would not want to go into a female toilet. So I would make policy. I would make a policy that, you know, people can be whatever they want to be. However you put that in policy, I don't know. I would have to sit there and think about it as an academic. So.
As a gay man myself, I think the last Labour government did so much for equality with the Equalities Act and leading the way, but I think there is still too much discrimination and there's too much toxicity aimed at the LGBT plus community today. We need to address that. As far as the Labour Party is concerned, equalities and reviewing all of the equalities agenda is something that's in our DNA. It's something we've done previously. It's something we would do again. Because everybody, no matter who they are, no matter their sexuality or they're all human beings at the end of the day. And I think that there is too much toxicity. We need to, it's almost been dehumanized over the last few years, and we need to rebalance that once again.
What about the policies? What policies would you put in place?
As I said, it's the Equalities Act, the Equalities Agenda, reviewing all of that and supporting that, yeah.
Right.
I think just to add, I think the Communist Party anyway would be all for the equalities and updating the Equalities Act. And it's similar to like women's rights. They put in full protection for people of the LGBTQ community sort of thing, protect them from threats of violence and discrimination. But let's expand the equalities agenda.
Thank you. Well, again, it's been covered quite well across the table here, but it's a case of, it's more the enforcement of that Equalities Act, yeah? And again, it's stuff is passed off as, again, like with the misogyny against women, it's banter, warning, if you're going to enforce it, you need to have those hard lines and say, yeah, this is unacceptable, this is a crime, this needs to be acted on by the police. You can have all the jurisdiction in the world, but if it's not enforced, it's not worth the paper it's written on. And that is what the problem is. It needs to be enforced.
Some more police powers.
They could just tighten up an enforcement of the Equalities Act, so people are not being discriminated at jobs or in the streets, or when it's reported, it is not actually just passed along the desk to somebody until it gets lost. It is actually acted upon.
Thank you.
That was the last one on that.
So the next question comes in on behalf of someone who couldn't be here this evening. But he asks, Michael O'Brien, a constituent of Cynnon Valley, spent more than 11 years in custody following a wrongful conviction for murder. He received substantial compensation for miscarriage of justice from the Home Office, but thousands of pounds were deducted from his compensation to cover bed and board in prison. So the question to the candidates, do they agree that the bed and board rules should be scrapped for all wrongly convicted people, and will they give an assurance that they will continue this campaign on Michael's behalf and others subject to this?
Wow. He paid bed and board. Wow. Yeah, scrap that. That's obviously a Conservative and Labour policy. But, but anyway, no, I would absolutely scrap that policy. I mean, if you're wrongly convicted, why should you pay a penny? In fact, why was he only given thousands? He should be paid a lot more. I mean, too many people actually are in prison that are innocent, and our whole system needs looking at, to be honest. So I'm not. That's kind of where I stand on that. I mean, but prisoners, I will say, on the other side of that, if you've done wrongdoing, whatever it is, you should go to prison, you should serve a sentence, and take the TVs and all the game stations away.
Certainly a very sad and sorry story, and obviously I'm not sure of all of the details behind it, but certainly if I'm elected as Michael's representative, then I would want to do all I can to support him and to make representation on his behalf.
It sounds an awful story, like a tragic story, but definitely, I'd fight the best I could to get that sort of rule, rescinded. It sounds like a joke almost to be charged with board and lodge. Especially when you've been found innocent after getting an appeal and so on, and they paid them compensation, but then they take the money back from the compensation. It's so unfair, so unjust. It's got to stop.
Unfortunately, this bed and board rule has been a law since the year dot, really. It's always been a case of that prisoners who are released then get charged for bed and board. So some parties here have been happily enforcing that when they were in power. So it's a case of it should have been stopped when somebody first noticed it, because it's an absolutely ridiculous set of situations. And that's all I got on that.
Yeah, I wonder how Julian Assange feels about that, if he ever gets out. If he has to pay back board and lodge. No, it's ridiculous. To pay back board and lodge on something that he didn't do, and his time in prison should be wiped off his record, and he shouldn't have to pay anything. He should have considerable amount of money for what he's been through, and that's the end of that.
Thank you very much. Now the next question is another anonymous one. What will you do as an MP to save the NHS after decades of neglect by Labour and Tory governments?
Well, I think, first of all, and I would say this, the NHS is the Labour Party's proudest achievement. The NHS, under the last Labour government, we saw the biggest satisfaction rates in the NHS. We saw the lowest waiting list in the NHS. The Tories have absolutely crippled the NHS, and the Labour Party will rebuild it. And how are we going to do that, by the way? We're going to stop the non-DOMS status in the UK, and that money will go into supporting doctors and nurses. 40,000 additional appointments every week. That's a UK figure. Obviously, Wales, Scotland, it is devolved, but Wales and Scotland will get a share of that investment in the NHS, because the NHS is too precious to our country, too precious to our communities to leave it any longer in the hands of the Tories.
Yes, with the NHS, we've got to fight for it with all our energy. It's the one public service that we've got to fight, protect and keep. I think other public services which have been privatised, we fight for. Some days you can probably sort of live with it to a point, but without the NHS, you cannot, this country cannot be classed as a civilised country without the NHS. So we need to sort of fight for it, protect it. It's a devolved issue that we've been dealt with in Wales under Senedd. I think at the moment they get like a £20 billion grant from Westminster to cover all services, including the NHS. I will fight to sort of to double that amount.
Well, unfortunately, the buck stops with the Labour government down in the Senedd when it comes to the NHS. It is devolved.
Who's funded it?
Yeah, the funding comes down the road from Westminster, but you're the ones who manage it. Yeah, and again, you need to do what you need to do, right? We want to take control of the Crown land and use that money to improve our NHS front line by boosting GP numbers, open a dental school in Bangor so we can have more trained dentists in Wales. Yeah, we can have use that money as well to boost a cancer strategy, to end the postcode lottery in Wales on cancer services. But the problem is yours in Wales. Own it and solve it. We are trying to do this. We've got policies here with all the funding ready to go, but you just keep driving it into the ground and putting your finger across the bridge. It's your problem. You own it.
Right, so started in 1948. Nye Bevan, brilliant. I don't know what the Labour Party have done since then. I have nothing as far as I'm concerned. But the rot started, actually. The rot started with the NHS. The privatisation started with the NHS with Tony Blair. And that's a fact. So he took all sorts of contracts out with all sorts of pharmaceutical companies and all sorts of care companies. And Richard Branson's even got involved now. But and that's what's taken all the money and all the doctors and nurses and all the healthcare out of our system. It's in a terrible mess, and I can tell you something, Labour will do absolutely nothing to improve our NHS. The NHS, for us, the NHS is absolute. It's going to survive, and we are going to make it survive, and that's the end of it.
What policies would you do?
It's in a manifesto.
Tell us.
Well, well, no privatisation for a start. We could run it through central government. We could. There's all sorts of contracts that we've got with pharmaceutical companies now that we could renegotiate and really boost the numbers. You say not in Wales, but actually it all stems from Westminster. The whole thing stems from Westminster. So the money that we get stems from Westminster. Labour have got no control over it in Wales.
Let him speak.
And Labour in Wales especially, have done nothing. As an opposition party, have done absolutely nothing over the last 14 years. They've not opposed anything that the Tories have done. Nothing.
You're unpopular now. Take the heat off me. All until I speak right now. So I know that the reforms idea of the NHS is to stop the boats, rebuild for 4 years, but that doesn't mean kick anybody out of the UK. They're all about keeping people in the UK, bring doctors and nurses in and people that are needed for the NHS. But the NHS is only going to survive. Listen, I've used 5 hospitals actually in 10 days, as my wife will tell you. I broke my leg in 3 places, I've got rods in my back, and I can tell you that the NHS has gone from a 4-hour to a 30-hour wait list. When Labour came out recently, Ellen came out and said that you would be 3 hours in 20 minutes and out in 4 hours. And let me tell you, I broke my leg, it was 30 hours. My mother couldn't breathe and she was 11 hours. So the NHS is underfunded, has no doctors, nurses, and needs funding, and that's it.
Right, the next question. The government has decided to change PIP payments, that's personal independence payments, from money to vouchers, chargebacks and services. Will you as an MP be trying to take this plan forward or fight it?
Can I just...
Oh.
Has anybody here got a car outside CA23 2FU? If you have, can you move it? They can't get out to Tesco's.
Is that ZFU? CA23 ZFU?
Oh, it might be, yeah.
Yeah, that's the reformed idiot. That's me.
It's you.
Tina, do you want? Uh-oh.
Boo!
Just pull it down the road a bit. Just let him out.
Thank you.
Just let him out. Park it right in front of Tesco.
Right, shall I repeat the question? The government has decided to change personal independence payments from money to vouchers, chargebacks and services. Will you be trying to take this plan forward or fight it?
Obviously you've got to fight that all the way. It's a disgraceful decision, like we put a bit on the face of it. The fact that they're trying to sort of like replace money with like sort of alternatives it reminds me of perhaps maybe going back to the old days of the track acts where rather than paying workers wages, we were paying them in tokens. But it's an example of the Tory sickness back to the bad old days, and the Communist Party would fight it with all its strength.
Yeah, well, of course, I and Plaid would fight this. It, like it said, it stinks of deals behind back doors, and these vouchers will only be acceptable at certain places and certain companies, and to get those contracts, you would have to, lobby certain individuals to make sure you were part of that list of approved users and stuff. So again, it's just another way of sliding money from taxpayers into private companies without us having the services we deserve.
To be honest, the pensioners, the disabled people, and anyone in between that have been treated like second-class citizens for at least the last 14 years, and before that as well. I've just had enough of that. I think everyone deserves a fair pay, a fair pension, something they can live on, something that's tied into inflation for a start. Inflation's gone up 20% in the last year. Our pension's gone up? I don't think so.
So you know, that was my question. It is actually about additional needs, not living. Living is so your housing payments and stuff like that. If it's for additional needs, like it pays my bill.
I mean, tokens, really?
That's my question.
I mean, tokens go back to the days of crochet, where you could only spend the tokens in his shops. And, it's, sorry?
Crochet pays cash. It was the other...
Yeah, he paid his own coin, though. He paid with his own coin, didn't he? Yeah, he did. Anyway, it's, I'll pass it on.
Pass it on to the disabled guy. Well, this is a question for me. I agree with you, by the way. We both know. So, yeah, Pip, I would absolutely keep it in place. And as for anything else, I mean, it's ridiculous. Pip is there just to help us to maintain our ability to go out and do what we need to do. So, to turn it into vouchers is ridiculous. And well, I guess it's passed on to Joe and see what Labour will do.
So you would fight this plan then?
Oh, I'd absolutely fight it all the way. I mean, I'm a disabled man, but...
Yeah, me too, by the way.
Hand it over to Gerald.
Obviously, PIP is there to support people with their independence. I think the whole, when you're looking at PIP, when you're looking at work capability assessments, universal credit, the whole system really over the last 14 years has been, people have been dehumanised. I think the whole thing, we have to go back to the basics. There has to be a complete, in my view, complete review of the whole situation. People have to be treated humanely and properly in a dignified way, which hasn't been the case in recent years.
Thank you very much, everyone. Right, the next question is from Sue. Now, forgive me because I can't read this very well. Sue Patman, is it? Or yep, Patman. Yep. What do you feel are the three main priorities for the constituency?
Right, okay, well, the three main priorities for our constituency. Well, it's all about the fairness. We need our fair share from Westminster. We, as a nation and as a constituency, have been robbed by Westminster endlessly. Yeah, the first thing would be to remove the two-child cap on welfare policy. Yeah, it is driving our families into poverty just because it looks good on a balance sheet. Yeah, people are more important than balance sheets. Yeah, if we want to save our children, we need to make sure those families have access to that money so they can lift themselves out of poverty. Using that would lift over 300,000 families in Wales out of poverty, and that is what Merthyr and Aberdare suffers from more than almost anywhere else. There's only there's only two places bottom of the lists and everything. It's us and Blaenau Gwent. And I'm working in Tredegar, and the kids always like to rub it into me when they are bottom of the list rather than Merthyr. Right? Because, yeah, we beat them again, sir, yeah? And that's all it is, because we're working on poverty. My second one is all about working against benefit sanctions. Right? It's a case of removal of, where people make a mistake, like the carers now who are suddenly earning maybe 2 or 3 pennies over the limit, they're suddenly getting bills for thousands of pounds because, you know, the government have not been counting their books, and again, our people are suffering. And the third thing is just to ensure we have our voice heard. It's a case of Labour, we're going to get a Labour MP, and Labour are going to wipe the floor. So we need to decide if we're going to have someone who's just going to nod and agree what Labour's leadership says, or as someone who fights for our communities to make sure we get what we deserve.
Crime would be probably one of the things on my list. I saw a guy get mugged outside here last night, actually, which wasn't very nice. Pick him up off the floor. So I definitely look at getting a lot more police officers into the Merthyr and Aberdare areas. We reported something last year, there was only 4 officers covering the whole Vale of Merthyr, which I think is ridiculous. There used to be a police station in Merthyr with 30, 40 officers in it. So that's been run down over many campaigns and many governments. So I would tackle that. Inward investment into Merthyr. Things like Ruddy Car West now that wants to come into Merthyr. I'd have to seriously have a look at that and tackle the people involved there with passing it or not passing it. See what the questions are and see what the situation is. There's definitely a load of jobs on offer there for the youth of this town. So I would definitely look at inward investment as a good priority as well. Have we got any more time?
Yep.
Oh, sorry. I haven't got time for a third one.
Can I just say remember that you're covering Aberdare as well. You're a big town there, and people not on Merthyr, I know we're in Merthyr, but I'm
Yeah, sorry. Actually, the bike park have got plans to go onto the Aberdare side now and build another lodge over there. So I think that'd be a great idea as well. And Bike Park Wales could become actually a great resource for Aberdare and Merthyr, because there's a lot of houses in Merthyr now clearing up on the Airbnb for Bike Park Wales, and also would be for the ski park if it ever happened. Hopefully it happens. But when the bike park goes onto the Aberdare side now, they build another lodge over there. There's loads of opportunities for youth workers and for building it as well. So I think that's a great idea for Aberdare as well, to be honest.
Thank you.
I almost forgot the question, but I'll get there. So mine is mental health, because I think, and low-income families leads into poor mental health, unemployment, all these things lead to poor mental health. But equally, going to the 3 things that you're talking about, also the NHS, I would plough a lot of money into and change the way things are. Mental health comes off that again. Low-income families, we're saying that, you know, you won't have to pay tax up to 20,000. I think that's going to help a lot of people. And yes, 30,000 more police officers on the streets, and that goes with what you're saying. There'll be more police on the streets. So I'll leave it at that. That's my take.
I think I'll try and reflect what people are saying to me on the doorstep. Over the last couple of months, I've knocked hundreds and thousands of doors across Merthyr, Tydfil and Aberdare, pretty much every ward across the constituency. And the biggest issue that is coming up on the doorstep is the cost of living crisis, because I think that's affecting communities and pretty much every family. The Labour Party, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the Great British Energy company, the publicly owned utility company, to bring down bills for every family across the UK, but also as part of that bringing down food prices as well, because obviously cost of distribution, cost of fuel, etc., all sort of stem from that. The other thing funded through that is looking at the minimum wage and turning that into a proper living wage, and for the first time the Low Pay Commission treating the cost of living as a factor in setting those things. So I think those would be really important in terms of tackling the cost of living crisis, which I said is a key priority. The other issue, I think, for the constituency is antisocial behaviour, which comes up quite a lot. 13,000 additional police officers and PCSOs we're pledging will help to tackle that, and also the new powers given to police to tackle off-road bikes, which again is a blight on many of our communities in this constituency. And I think the other thing I just mentioned is inward investment, which has already been mentioned, but I think, you know, the Welsh Government have made huge investment across the A465 doing at the moment, which is ongoing and will be finished next summer. We've got to use that as a catalyst to bring inward investment and more jobs into this area.
One of the major priorities, I say, for Merthyr, Tydfil and Aberdare, I think it's for our young people to stay in Merthyr and Aberdare. So many people are moving out, young people move away. My daughters, who are friends in Aberdare, they look for their futures elsewhere. Merthyr and Aberdare has increasingly become just a town of commuters for Cardiff. The Cardiff economy is booming, our economy is suffering. But we need an economy in Merthyr based on manufacturing, and we want to keep the young people in Merthyr. We need to deal with the open cast up in Top Dowless there. It's the worst I saw in Europe, and yet it's just been overlooked. And then you've got the poverty that we accept. You've got the drug abuse. You've got people walking around the town, like drug dependency. The risk of crime is high. The two towns, the two communities are falling apart, and we need to sort of put something in action now. And I think if you vote for me as MP, I will do that.
Right, we've got two very similar questions, which I'm going to roll into one. The first one from Vanessa Ratcliffe: what experience and skills do you need to have to be our next MP? And the next question, which is very similar, from Simon Williams: can you name one of your strengths and one of your weaknesses that we should know about before we cast our votes?
Am I first on this? Or?
No, you're last.
Oh, right, okay. Me or? Yeah, it's you. Have the question again, please. All that passion and mics.
Right, so it's two questions rolled into one. What experience and skills do you need to have to be the next MP? And name one strength and one of your weaknesses that people should know about.
Great. Right, strengths to being an MP is that I've worked since I was 16 years of age. I've been in construction all my life. I've worked for many different people all over the town. I understand the way people work. I don't necessarily like career politicians because I don't think they understand what people are going through at the moment. And that's a fact. They don't understand because they sat there on their 86 grand or whatever it is a year and 200 grand expenses. They don't understand the people at the bottom are actually suffering. And it's not because of Tory rule. It is because of Tory rule, but it's because of the really weak opposition that we've had for the last 14 years as well, to be fair. My strength is that obviously that I know what people are going through and I can work with people and I speak their language. A weakness, I'm not too familiar with the political landscape, so that's something I'm going to have to learn. If I got elected, and I would learn very quickly. But that's my only weakness. Oh, and spelling.
We're both dyslexic. Exactly, can't even say it. That's how bad my dyslexia is. Yeah, so my weakness, I'll start with first, and that is the same as you. I'm not political, really. So I like talking about politics, but I need to learn about politics. And learn to be deceitful and a liar.
No, that's not what it's all about, mate.
That's yeah. There you go. Listen, I joined the party 2 days before he came out, so that's. Well, so's Labour and the Conservatives. So where do you think they get all their money from? Yeah. But anyway. We won't go into that. So my strength is I listen and I'm dogged and I go above and beyond for everybody and anybody. But yeah, I'll debate the whole company thing later.
It's actually 30 years this year that I've been an elected representative. Only 9 years as an MP, but for many years before that as an elected community and county councillor. working at the grassroots, working with communities. My day job, because I wasn't a career politician, I was a local representative, but my day job was working for a charity, working with community groups at the grassroots, drawing down funding to support them to build up their capacity, build up their confidence, really, to know that they had the power in their hands to change communities from the grassroots up. And I think it's that knowledge of our communities, that involvement from the grassroots for over 30 years, that I believe stands me in good stead to work and continue to work on behalf of residents across this constituency. I think one of my strengths is that I listen. I do listen to people and engage with people on a pretty much daily basis. That's across the communities through the things I mentioned earlier, like surgeries and street surgeries. And probably a weakness is probably a bit impatient for change, get frustrated sometimes when things are not happening quickly enough. But that's a weakness I can live with.
Thank you.
I would say, my experience as a long-standing trade union rep. I've been involved in the trade union all my working life. Best part of say, perhaps wasn't a member of the trade union, but I repped for about 35 years. Held different positions within the union, branch secretary. I think I understand the meaning of democracy and meaningful consultation as opposed to consultation. And communication, which is a big thing that MPs need to communicate back to the people they represent. So I think I got those skills and experience. I do believe in people's rights and equalities, and and public services, and taxing the rich that pay for these services. So I suppose that would be my strengths. If I looked at any weaknesses. Possibly I've been involved in quite a few campaigns over my time and trade union activity, so perhaps maybe I might get involved in too many things.
To be honest, my experience is not much. I had a 6-month stint part-time running, being a campaign organiser in Neath for Plaid during the Senate election during COVID, because I was looking for a part-time job so I could continue focus on my OU studies. My skills, the biggest thing I got is I'm a very good 2IC, what we call in the Army, second in command. I'm very detail driven, I'm very organised, I'm very, I love an Excel spreadsheet, you know what I mean? Yeah, where they're doing all that. And again, my biggest strength, I think, is my moral courage. The biggest thing the Army give me is the ability to stand up for what is right, no matter who is shouting and screaming me down. And that's what drives me forward. I'm the last person who wants to be in this seat doing this. I hate politics and all it, but we are the victims of our elected officials. We are not the priority of them, and that is what is driving me, my moral courage, to ensure that we become the priority of our elected officials, not the victims. And my biggest weakness is I don't trust people. I've been let down by so many people in my life. I find it really hard to trust people, and when people say, I judge people on their actions, not their words, and I've been let down by so many people in my life. I find it very difficult to open that door and allow people to help me, right? But again, that's all I want, is us to have somebody who fights for us, not against us.
You may come to last politics by the time you finish. So the next question is from Sarah. What are your plans for ensuring young people have opportunities here?
Can't be me again. Can you repeat the question?
What are your plans for ensuring young people have opportunities here?
Oh, well, I have a son, 2 grandchildren, so I would ensure that there are jobs, and at the moment there aren't enough jobs to go around, and I'm not going to go on about immigration, migration, and there's just no point. But we are overpopulated. We do need to bring in work into Wales, as most of it goes across the border. Perhaps Labour can help with that when we get in. But yeah, I think that yeah, the youth should have some kind of work brought into Wales. I just think that there's a lot of companies are shifting from Britain anyway into abroad. So, and yeah, I know we can go about Brexit, which is partly the Reform Party's fault, but yeah, bring in more work. Labour can help.
Well, I think touched on it earlier in terms of, I mean, inward investment is crucial. I think that Heads of the Valleys Road should be a catalyst for bringing jobs in, because young people in the main, I think we have quite established communities, and people in most cases want to stay local with their family, but they want obviously good housing, good jobs, and all of that needs to be sort of thought about really. I think we have the building blocks. I think there's been a lot of regeneration, physical regeneration gone on across the valleys in recent years. A lot of that was due to European funding. We have to find obviously new ways of doing that. That investment has to continue. But I think that the jobs are really key to keep young people in this area and across the Heads of the Valleys area generally, because if people have good, well-paid jobs, then I think the chances are, the quality of life, the surroundings is here, but the jobs is what we need.
I think that we need to develop a local economy in Merthyr Tydfil and Aberdare. We need to keep the young people in Merthyr Tydfil and Aberdare. We need to avoid this rush for this commuter way of working. I know this the train, the metro system looks good, but it seems to be also Cardiff-centric rather than Valley-centric. So I think we need to sort of do something along those lines. In terms of improve train facilities, apprenticeships, the trades, try to attract modern industries, high-tech industries. And I think as well, to turn a little bit on his head, that I would fight to get the retirement age reduced to 60. Because if people retired earlier, I think that would free up jobs for the youngsters. And why are we working till 67, 70 when young people can't get jobs?
I'll take
For Plaid and myself, this is a two-pronged attack. The first thing on this is about education. It's about ensuring our young people have the skills we need first, and providing flexible and personalised ways into higher education, be it vocational skills or your classic A-levels and degree efforts. But then it's also about creating a circular economy, using local businesses for local projects, letting local councils employ local people, so those local companies can take on these young people, upskill them, get them into a position where they're earning money here so they don't need to move away. Yeah? The problem we've always had is we've always thought the South Wales Valleys is somewhere you've got to leave to make your name. Yeah? We need to make sure we've got that strong local economy where our young people can look up and go, actually, I can make my fortune here, working at home and making our communities better rather than having to travel the world and take all our best and brightness away from us.
Well, I've travelled the world. I've worked all over the world, and now I'm back in Merthyr, and I can see the Merthyr's youth, parts of it are out of control. They need things to do. They need youth clubs. They need inward investment for jobs. There's factories that are just standing out in the middle of nowhere, just doing nothing. Let's fill them up. Whoever's going to take them, drop the council taxes on them. Make Merthyr and Aberdare. Make them, inviting for companies from all over the world. And the other thing is apprenticeships. When did apprenticeships die out? I mean, when did we stop making? I know they haven't died out, but they're not. Nobody's given any incentives anymore to take apprentices on. Well, I was never given it. I've taken apprentices on. And I've had to do it off my own back because I've been given no incentive to do it. So it's so I don't believe that. And even when I've approached Merthyr Tydfil down here for apprentices, and they tell me, no, you can't have that guy because he doesn't want to be a bricklayer or a carpenter. He wants to be a painter, or he wants to, you know. So it's selective, isn't it? I know I agree that people should do what they want to do, but it's I mean, jobs are important for the youth.
Thank you very much. Now, the next question comes from Adam Owen Rogers. How important is for candidates to live in the constituency? And if you can also answer whether you do actually live in the constituency, I'm sure everybody would be interested.
So, for the last 9 years, I've been a resident of the Merthyr Tydfil and Rumney constituency, born and raised in that constituency. Obviously, boundaries have now changed. I live in New Tredegar. To be honest, I think the important thing, as far as I can see, is that whoever is the elected representative is part of the community, is visible and accessible in that community. To be honest, the role of the Member of Parliament is obviously to be in Parliament for the biggest part of the week up in Westminster, and frankly, where people sleep on a weekend, I don't think is the main issue. I think it's about being visible and accessible in the community, and certainly, as I started with, actually being here and around, doing surgeries, street surgeries, getting around events, talking to community groups, being a part of the community week in, week out, having an office space in the community. My office has been in Aberdare Square for the last 9 years, open Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. If I am elected as the MP for Merthyr Tydfil in Aberdare, I would want to have a similar arrangement in Aberdare as well. But it's about being part of the community and being visible.
What are the expenses?
I think it's a major sort of advantage to be living in the constituency. I can understand if people might live a little bit on the edge of the constituency because they chop and change the boundaries so often. But by living, I'm from, I live in Cefn now. I'm born in Merthyr Tydfil, brought up in Douglas. I witnessed all the closures of all the Geskin steelworks, Hoovers shut in, all the pits shut in, and all this mass unemployment. When I left school, there were gangs of young people like myself just hanging on the streets. So I've seen it, I've been there, I got the t-shirt. So I think it is advantageous to be from the constituency.
Just to let you know, the Conservative candidate isn't here tonight because it's a long way from Shrewsbury. Whether she would move from Shrewsbury to here, I don't know. I'm not sure if anyone's asked. But if anyone does...
Oh, when you said she would.
She would. Well, there we are.
Well, I live in Trearis. I'm as far south as you can go and still be here, pretty much. And again, how can you understand the problems of the community if you're not part of it? You can't know what the problems are that these people are facing unless you share them with them. And also, my position in Trearis, away from both the big urban centres of Aberdare and Merthyr, will allow me that position to have no favouritism. I got links with both. Merthyr obviously runs my life down in Trearis, but as a youngster I went to the A training co in Aberdare. I've got lots of friends in Aberdare, and I feel that slight detachment from the two towns because there's always going to be that clash of heads. So having that distance from that allows me to be a little bit more impartial for it, but you need to be part of your community to know what it is suffering.
Yeah, I agree. I'm from Merthyr, born and bred, been all over the world working, but I've been back now for about 12 years. And I think it is important to be part of the community, to be in the community. I know a lot of people from Aberdare because I was in school with people from Aberdare. I used to walk over there as a kid to the baths actually. And it's just really important to be from I mean, I'm only in this race because of what the Labour Party did to Beth Winters, to be honest. And I honestly, as I say, I've been a Labour voter all my life, but I just couldn't stomach standing for the Labour Party or anyone else. So I'm standing for a real left workers' party who will restore the left-leaning people of this town.
Right. Well, I'm from the Valleys as well, but I was dragged up on the council estate in Welsh. So, but I've drunk in Merthyr since I was 15, and now I live smack between Aberdare and Merthyr, in Regos, or as they call it, the Rickos. I call it Regos, but anyway, Regos. But anyway, that's where I live, and I would be there for anybody. And I would have an open door policy, and even if I was going up to Westminster, I'd make sure I'd come back and I wouldn't sit on weekends. So, yeah, knock my door anytime, even if I'm an MP or not. So, and I will give you all the help I can.
Thank you. Now time's going on, it's just gone 20 to 9. We're going to finish at 9 o'clock. So we've got time for a few more questions, and then we'll have a rounding up. The candidates will give a short presentation on why they think you should vote for them. So the next question is from Sue Morris. What would you do to restore trust and integrity to politics? Sorry.
Yeah, okay. I think a simple thing would be just sort of like to improve the scrutiny of MPs, in particular Tory MPs, you know, who have got away with so much sort of scandal in recent years. Margaret Thatcher, I think when she first got elected, when the first thing she did, I think, was to, I guess she put I'm not sure how they work in Parliament, but basically they relaxed a lot of laws on scrutiny, which led then to all these MPs claiming for all sorts of things like duck ponds and God knows what. And then I think that's just led then to this culture of people doing things for themselves. So tougher scrutiny. And again, I'd extend that tougher scrutiny to the Speaker of the House as well, because the way he sort of controlled Parliament to sort of squash the debate and the vote on the ceasefire in Gaza was an utter disgrace.
Well, it's just it comes down to enforcement. We could have the best laws in the world, but if nobody's enforcing them, what's the point of writing them down? Yeah, it comes down to enforcement, and having a system where the people who are going to get scrutinised by the rules are the ones creating the rules, again, like the gambling issue earlier, is a little bit silly, isn't it? Yeah, but for me, there is no bigger judge and no harsher marker of me than myself. Honesty and integrity is what drives me every day, right? And I would lead by example, right? Not a false word will come out of this mouth. If you ask me to do something and I go away and I can't do it, I come back and I will tell you why. And I will tell you what I'm going to do next to try and solve this problem. You lead by example, and we need to make sure those laws are actually enforced. So when people do break them, it's not a slap on the wrist, it's not going to sit in time out, it is, you are out, and you will fail your constituents, you are out, and they get a chance to pick someone else who's going to actually represent them, not their own interests.
The truth is most important to me. My wife always tells me that I'm a really bad liar, and that's because I really need to tell the truth. No matter how it comes out, I always tell the truth. And I think all MPs and all representatives of anyone should have to tell the truth, and they should have to tell the truth at all times. And if they're called up and anyone is caught flaunting them rules where truth is integrity, then they should be either thrown out or in some cases, like Boris Johnson, put in jail.
What would you do to restore trust and integrity to politics?
Oh, is there an answer for that? I mean, they're all liars. But I would try not to be a liar. Well, I mean, when I say try not to be a liar, I'm not a liar, and I do tell the truth. My only issue is I can cut like a knife with the truth. So I would always be truthful, factful, and as for Parliament, I mean, it needs a complete overhaul basically, and check most of the MPs out. But I guess that's what's going to happen anyway with the Conservatives. They're going to lose all their seats. But the only issue then is we have a bunch of Labour MPs in there that are just as bad. So it's a two-party. So yeah, I don't really know the answer to that, because that would be down to Labour and what they can do next.
I think truth and integrity in politics is absolutely essential. I think what we've seen in recent years is, when we look at Partygate, when we look at all of the issues that have gone on with the Tory government, it's really, I think, for most people, the worst government in living memory. And I think that has absolutely turned people off politics. And I think what the Tory government have tried to do is to show, or to suggest, that everybody is the same, that there's no alternative. I don't think that's the case. I think we all have a role to play, and for my part, I would want to play that part as well, because I think it's important to respond to constituents. I mean, everybody who comes through my door will get a response. You may not like the response they get sometimes. With the best will in the world, you can't solve everybody's problems as hard as you can try. But everybody deserves an answer, so that the worst thing anybody can have is to feel ignored, and that is certainly not what I've put in place over the last 4 years. But we need to restore that trust. We need to have also a manifesto that is deliverable, that people can judge us by in 5 years' time, because otherwise, I'm sorry, I'm running out of time, people will lose trust even further than they do already.
So this might be the last question. As an MP for Merthyr and Aberdare, considering the success of tourism in the region as a catalyst for job creation and economic development, what specific actions will you take to ensure these opportunities are brought to our area? In particular, how will you support the proposed Ryder West project?
Well, Ryder West, I remember that being talked about when I was a kid in school, you know what I mean? And we all know how successful a dry ski slope is in Merthyr. You can ask people to pen to back that. But again, it's a brilliant idea. It looks fantastic on all the plans they keep issuing, but there's no motion with it, yeah? At all levels, it just seems to be stalled everywhere. We never seem to get any progress. But again, it's all about, we are blessed with a wonderful location. We've got the Brecon Beacons behind us. We've got all this wonderful land around us, and we need to use that. And Bike Park Wales is really good to that. And Ryder West, by the look of it, looks like it's going to be brilliant. But it's just working with these opportunities to make sure they're sustainable, they're reliable, they are actually benefiting us as a local economy, wherever they are in the constituency, to ensure that we are bringing forward not only the tourism side of it, but the heritage side of it as well. We threw away more steel and iron round here than Blaenavon ever made. But because they actually bothered with the UNESCO World Heritage status, they're on the website next to Machu Picchu now, they're on the website next to the pyramids, and we have got a brown sign and a B&Q on top of the finest ironwork the world ever known. Right? So that is the problem we don't honour our traditions around here, and we need to make sure we work together with what we've got to ensure we get the benefits from the tourism that we need.
Right, Ryder West, I've got some friends involved in that. I've looked into that deeply. For me, it's an absolute no-brainer. I think the council have dragged their feet on this for far too long, and I think it should be passed as a priority for the town. It's going to take, right, I thought about this earlier. I thought, if they started to take on apprentices when they started building this site, took on apprentices, we could probably over 5 or 6 years put 2 to 3 sets of apprentices through their apprenticeships. And you know, and that's one of the priorities that one of the things that they've started to give to contractors who would be working there would have to take that on. So for me, Radical West is a no-brainer. And I know there's some newts up there, and I know there's some old buildings in the bushes and some other heritage stuff, but it needs to be built now, and they need to stop dragging their feet. So that's a priority for me. And it's inward investment, and it's jobs for the youth. 600 jobs for the youth of this town. So that's very important. Oh, and Aberdare as well. So it's you know, it's stretched the jobs constituency wide.
I don't know much about Radical West, to be honest. I'm going to hold my hand up and I'm going to say I don't. I'm from as much Aberdare as Merthyr. Like I said, I'm between them. I think the heritage, I think tourism, I think we should bring the boats in. That's good tourism. And that was a dark joke, by the way, military, but...
That was a terrible joke.
Yeah. I know.
Oh, God.
I won't do stand-up comedy, I promise.
No.
Well, I may do after, like, trying this.
The clock is ticking.
Yeah. Sorry?
Disabled joke.
Yeah, well, I could stand up and clap, but I can't. Anyway, I think tourism is hugely important, and our heritage is, and I think Aberdare and Merthyr have so much of both. I don't think that's going to be an issue to be a I don't know much.
I think tourism is untapped. I think there's a huge potential to grow tourism in our area. We've got already some amazing, obviously Bike Park Wales take visitors, 75% I think of the visitors come from over the border. That's that in itself, which all the other initiatives that are going on locally, I think we can do more. I've met the guys with Radical West. It certainly sounds impressive. The detail of it, obviously, it's a matter for the local authority and the planning system to work through. But I think the whole agenda for tourism is something that we should be using much more and capitalising much more of, given our location on the crossroads of the A465, A470. We're an ideal location. And just as an aside, there's actually police officers in the House of Commons that come to Merthyr for summer holidays because of its location, and that's absolutely true.
Tourism is another area of regenerating the town of Merthyr, Tydfil and Aberdare. We've got like lovely countryside around us. We got the football Brecon beacons. There's a lot we can do with that. But I think our town centres, well, at least Merthyr Tydfil town centre, is dying on its feet. We need to sort of get some investment in the town centre, perhaps maybe create some kind of visitor centre, museums, cultural areas. We need to get people back into the town centre. I'm assuming, I think Aberdare is very similar, but I know, as I'm from Merthyr, I can see Merthyr as a town sort of dying on its feet. We got this blinking eyesore of the open cast, which we can't do anything with. And as for the Reader Car, West development, it's a planning issue, so perhaps I don't know the details of it. In principle, yes, let's have more leisure development of facilities, but be aware that we need permanent, well-paid jobs, and be careful of these Airbnbs, which might lead to homelessness.
Thank you very much. That is the end of all the questions, because there are plenty more questions in the box, but we're running out of time. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to invite all the candidates to give their closing speech. Now, the way we're going to do this, in this election, it's slightly different from other ones, because a lot of the doors they go to, there's a ring doorbell, and it records you. So what we're going to do, they're going to pretend they're ringing the bell, no one's in, so they've got to talk to the doorbell, and they've got 30 seconds to tell the householder why they should vote for them. I've got the bell, I've got the timer, so 30 seconds each, and we're going to start with candidate number 4. So why should people vote for you?
Oh, that's me.
30 seconds.
Right, you should vote for me because our policies are fantastic, our manifesto's fantastic. Free education, uplift in pensions, pension age of 60. We've got the minimum wage is going up to 21,200. There's lots of other stuff, equality.
5 seconds.
Payments for the disabled will be going up. We're going to look after the whole community.
Thank you.
I won't stand up. Anyway, you should vote for me because, well, I personally, you should vote for me as a candidate, not just as a member of the Reform Party. Because as a person, I'm honest and straightforward. I believe in mental health and bringing that up. I believe in the low-income families and giving them money and making sure that they can survive and their kids can eat. Unemployment, I'd like to bring more work to Aberdare and Merthyr. Is that it?
Yeah.
Well,
I told you 30 seconds.
All elections are important. This one is absolutely crucial. It's an opportunity to turn the page on 14 years of the most chaotic, worst government we've seen in living memory. It's a chance to vote for a fresh start with the Labour Party under Keir Starmer's government, who will return this country to the better years that we haven't seen for the last 14. And one of the things I'm most proud about is the new deal for working people, which we launched within 100 days, which gives working people the minimum wage looked at, ending fire and rehire, and 0-hour contracts. Thank you.
A vote for me, I guess, a vote for the Communist Party. I want to end the genocide in Gaza immediately. We want to get a immediate ceasefire. Want to sort of stop sending arms to Ukraine, which is going to lead to like a potential nuclear war. We need to sort of like reboost the economy of Merthyr Tydfil and Aberdare. We need to get the manufacturing economy going. There's plenty of money in this country. Like, the Tories have sent £12 billion to Ukraine. That money should be sent back to Britain and to Wales and to Merthyr Tydfil and Aberdare in particular.
We get what England wants, and England currently wants a Labour PM who praised Margaret Thatcher's meaningful change and wants to privatise our NHS. This allows the people of Merthyr Tydfil and Aberdare to pick somebody who's going to fight for them. And all I've got is fight and hard work. So if you want someone who's going to fight for our communities and make sure we get the fair share we deserve, you can find nobody with more fight than me.
Thank you very much. That more or less wraps things up for this evening. I'll just stop my stopwatch. How do people feel about the show of hands of who you want to support, or do you want to keep that private? Private, or do you want to show of hands? Right, okay. Who would vote for this gentleman over here?
everybody.
Yeah, it's just a show of hands. It's not scientific, but who would vote for Gerald? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. And the communists? Thank you. Plaid? Workers' Party? Thank you. And Reform?
My wife.
Well, you had one vote.
That's my wife.
Well done to the lady at the back, very loyal. And she moved the car.
She loves me.
Well, I think you got as much of an idea as I did. That was, apart from the last one, it was fairly evenly split, I think. So, what I would say is thank you very much to everyone for all the questions. I'm sorry we didn't get through all of them. A lot of them were very similar to the others, but we just ran out of time. Now, I am aware this evening has been recorded. Margaret, what's going to happen to the recording? You're going to sell it to the communists, and they're going to put it, and they're going to put it on show. Okay, well, thanks very much, everybody. Safe journey home. And thanks to the candidates.
All the best, gents. Look after yourself. I've been trying to have another round there.
We'll see you in 14 days.
Oh, God, how long?
It's a really hard job to turn up somewhere, not know in advance what the questions are going to be, and just quick fire, this is the question, give us an answer. And my thanks to every candidate that turned up here tonight. You did brilliantly. Also, can we have a massive round of applause, please, for Andrew, who has given up his life. So, ladies and gentlemen, have a good election, and we'll see you next time. Thank you very much all for coming.
Best, Bob. Good debate. Best. Beautiful night.
Done a brilliant job.